absolutely, from public works and infrastructure, which is very critical to moving goods, and that is something that the business sector will be looking forward to the most as well. As we know, our rail industry is on its knees. We talk about crime in South Africa, and that's where the police come in. The police minister quite excited in terms of some of the agreements that the country has entered into, speaking about a very special relationship with Saudi Arabia when it comes to the space in particular. And it's not just about making delegates here feel safe in Mpositola, it's about making you and I essentially feel safe going into the future. Another element that touches on the business sector, and I mentioned the business sector, Mpo, because we've got Ms. Busi Mabuza, Chairperson of the BRICS Business Council, which has been doing quite a lot of work behind the scenes in terms of some of the discussions and key outcomes here. Thank you very much, Ma, for your time this afternoon. So when we take a look at the Johannesburg II Declaration, two important points coming out, or two important positions coming out. One, expanding BRICS. Two, taking a look at the creation of a local currency in terms of trade. As early as the 22nd of August, which is on Tuesday when the summit kicked off, you had the BRICS Business Council, which you chair, having little progress regarding whether a BRICS currency was possible or even desirable. How should we understand this in the context of this latest announcement?
So it's important, thank you for the opportunity to do, it's important that policymakers continue to engage on the issue of a common currency. We've got a fairly recent example in terms of lifespans, in terms of political, economic cycle terms, in the form of the European Union, where they were able to actually implement an economic framework that spanned across the European countries, and therefore were able to implement a common currency. But even then, we had the UK moving out of that bloc very recently. So we are geographically disparate nations in terms of the BRICS nations. Our economic frameworks are so different that I would take the counsel that we received from the governor of the Reserve Bank when they had their roadshow to Soweto, that one needs economic convergence before you can have a common currency. But that finance ministers continue to talk to each other is absolutely important. We as business see the opportunity in that already you have some of the partners trading in own currency, settling in own currency, and perhaps therein lies an opportunity, not just for BRICS, but also for the African continent. We have as many currencies as we have countries on this continent. If we are to make the African Continental Free Trade Area a meaningful reality, then the Pan-African payment and settlement systems has to work for us. And I believe that Afri-Exim Bank, together with the Secretariat of the AFCFTA, are working really hard to try and ensure that we're able to settle in own currency as the discussions on a common currency are had by the policymakers. And I expect those to be quite protracted.
Sure. And then we take a look at the other announcement of expanding the group. How does South Africa extract value, or how do we do things differently from this day forward? There was a trade deficit last year, and South Africa was on the back foot. We take a look at some of the things that we import that we could very well make here in this country. You speak of vanity cases or vanity bags being imported, toothpicks being imported. Is that not something that we need to do ourselves to stimulate not only the economy while tackling also the issue of unemployment?
So first of all, I must acknowledge that 2 of the 5 new BRICS partners are actually our own. They are from the continent, and that being Egypt and Ethiopia, of course. Egypt is one of the biggest economies on the continent, and Ethiopia is, of course, one, if not the only, one of the countries on the continent that was never ever colonized. So historically very rich, and of course the home of our very own African Union. So I'm very delighted that South Africa will now be sitting with our brothers and sisters from those two countries, and together charting an agenda that will enable us to deliver to help accelerate the African Continental Free Trade Area in a manner that is mutually beneficial for us as continental players and for the BRICS partners. And coming to your issue of the trade deficit, South Africa actually, as we led up, as we took over our chairship at the beginning of this year, did a whole lot of research, especially because the BRICS Business Council was celebrating its 10th anniversary. So we took pause and we took stock on how this partnership has benefited us since we as the Business Council were launched. And we found that, of course, there have been benefits in that there has been growth of over 7% per annum in trade amongst our partners. There has been significant investment that has come into our country. I believe that the Vedanta zinc mine is an example there. The Beijing automotive plant, even though it's not in full production because it was, of course, interrupted by the COVID pandemic, but the plant is actually in Kuha and we just need to get it up and running now. So we've seen the investment as well. But we may have taken the eye off the ball in that our partners continue to take raw materials, raw minerals from us. These are not value-added products, and therefore we inherently end up in a natural potential trade deficit situation because they are importing to us high value-added goods, and in instances, goods that we could be producing here on our own continent and here in our country. So we've had very intense engagements leading up to this summit with our BRICS partners and have reached an agreement, and we issued as the BRICS Business Council a trade and investment joint statement that we now want to see investment coming into the continent. If we look at the opportunity of the new energy minerals that this continent has in the form of platinum, in the form of cobalt, in the form of lithium, rather than export the raw material, we want investment here, we want the jobs here, so that by the time those goods move from the continent, the value, the revenue actually comes to the continent.
Mabuza, you mentioned us taking our eye off the prize, or essentially maybe not really paying particular attention to this issue of the extraction of raw material and raw minerals. When you speak of significant investment in the country, but not only in South Africa but in the continent, I love how you speak of the African Continental Free Trade Area, because it's said that it's going to be unlocking trillions in not just investment and trade, but also the movement of people, making that a reality as well. But we are in 2023 and we're still talking about this. What has been the resistance, right? And so now that we know that we've kept our eye off the ball, what is it that we're going to be doing differently? Because now you've got people moving on the other side of the freeway, just where we are at the Sandton Convention Center. On the highway on the other side is Alexandra. Slowly but surely people are setting up informal settlements. If you turn left on Grayston Drive, you'll see that. So for those people, for people who are in the most rural parts of this here country, what do things like these mean? What does it mean when we speak about we keep on exporting our raw materials, and these are people that do not see the value of the beauty of what's in the belly of this here continent?
So first of all, looking at the hurdles and bottlenecks, mindset is absolutely critical. If our point of departure is a pessimistic one, then we have already defeated ourselves. So I'm very, very enthused by the optimism that I have witnessed with everybody that I've engaged with the people that I've met, and I would urge everybody in South Africa. We've received over 60 nations, over 60 heads of state in this beautiful Gauteng with warm, open arms. We've seen the opportunity. Let us grab that opportunity and run with it. Secondly, we have, of course, other hurdles. In my view, the African Continental Free Trade Area was, of course, a fantastic idea that probably got stuck for too long in the policy engagement phase of things. Critical now is that business has now stood up. Women entrepreneurs have stood up. The youth are standing up. And they are saying, we see this opportunity and we want to make it a reality. So I think the fact that we're now holding hands and not just talking, but on the ground, people are already seeking opportunities to trade with each other is absolutely fantastic for me. And herein lies the opportunity for everybody on the ground, be it across the M1 highway, or be it in the Vemba district up north. We need to ensure that we are informed. Information is power. In the engagements that have been had between the policymakers, including the Johannesburg II Declaration, not only have we been talking about the opportunities, but the enablement of those opportunities in the form of finance has featured critically in the engagements. So we need to be informed, especially entrepreneurs, need to do the research, visit the websites that are relevant, and ensure that you are informed on how you can actually access those opportunities. We as the BRICS Business Council have committed ourselves, together with our partners, to now rally small, medium, and large businesses to take advantage of the trade shows that we will be implementing in our respective regions. And I'm now talking about the 5 nations that have been part of BRICS so far. I'm sure Egypt actually has a trade fair that's coming up in later, I think in November. So we will now take advantage of that as well as an opportunity.
Okay. How do we... There are a number of young people in South Africa who attend trade shows religiously, but they will tell you access to capital still remains a problem in the country. And so they're not able to scale. And so how do we do that? What do we do? What are the conversations that are being had? For instance, if I want to start a small business, is Egypt able to finance me? So access to capital, how do we bring those small businesses up?
So of course there are local institutions, CIFA, National Empowerment Fund, Industrial Development Corporation. I would say start there. But I'm excited that the new development bank, which as you know is a multilateral institution that has actually been formed by the BRICS partners, has now agreed to fund private sector entrepreneurs. They want 30% of their funding book to now be facing the private sector, whereas up to now they've just been focusing on sovereign exposure only. And development finance institutions, I believe, are standing at the door to partner with the new development bank to ensure that this funding is not just focused on large business, but also that we're able to carve out a parcel for small and medium enterprises.
I guess the future is exciting, like you said, optimism, so that's the main takeaway. In terms of stimulating and reinvigorating our economy, which is on a drip, what are the conversations that are being had?
So it is absolutely critical that we reignite this economy, and I believe that confidence is one critical element, ingredient to ensuring that business people, to ensuring that entrepreneurs actually want to take the risk. And I am really enthused that this particular summit has begun to bring back that kind of confidence in our system, in our economy. And I think it's for us to grab this opportunity and sustain it by running with it.
Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Busi Mabuza is the chairperson of the BRICS Business Council. Thank you, ma'am. All right, Mpositole, there you have it. All things business and how it impacts, I guess, the everyday South African, this entire operation. At the end of the day, people want to know how this impacts their lives, and we hope that we have been able to bring you contributions that help you put the pieces together. It's back to you, Mpo.